What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ, and in today's video, we're back at it looking at some NBA player props over on PrizePicks. When I last saw you guys, it was Friday. That video ended up going 3 out of 5. So anytime I go over 50%, I consider that a successful video. Now, I had a video all lined up and ready to go yesterday. I actually uploaded it to YouTube and then realized, oh man, I forgot some edits. So I ended up pulling it down and just tweeted out the picks from the video. I think those did okay, maybe 2 or 3 picks. I don't quite remember, but anyway, it's a new day, new opportunities. We're going to look to see if we can bounce back and have a better day today. Hopefully today's video ends up going smoothly as far as edits and uploading and all that other fun stuff. So with that in mind, if you're not subscribed to the channel, definitely make sure that you are subscribed with notifications turned on. We recently hit 1,400 subscribers. This is fantastic growth in my opinion. We've been at this since January 1st of this year and have seen slow and steady and gradual growth. So I appreciate all you guys out there who are subscribed and continue to support the channel by liking the videos, by watching every day. Speaking of likes, we need to get back on track with our like streak. We ended up losing our like streak on Friday as well. We've been going for 40 or more likes and have been hitting it with great success. So I'd like to see if we could get back on track and get at least 40 thumbs up on this video. That would be awesome. I know we can do it. If you do not play on PrizePicks, you should definitely check it out. It's the most fun way to play, in my opinion. The reason is because you can power plays for bigger payouts. You could flex plays for less risk, a little bit of a less payout, but it's still the safest way to play is to flex your entries. Anyway, if you haven't played on PrizePicks before, now's a great time. If you deposit anywhere from $20 to $100, they'll do an instant deposit match of 100%, doubling your money on the spot. So you put in 100, they'll put in 100, you'll have 200 bucks to play with, plenty of money to carry you through the rest of the NBA playoffs. Use promo code Curry. I'll leave a link down in the description below, and you'll get that instant promo deposit match. So let's get it out of the way, guys. We've only got one game on tonight's NBA slate. We've got the Milwaukee Bucks at the Brooklyn Nets. This one has an implied point total of 221.5 points. The Brooklyn Nets are 2.5 point underdogs at home in this one. So the biggest news from this is going to be James Harden, keeping an eye on his status. So far, it sounds like he is going to try and play, barring there's no setbacks with the hamstring injury that he's been dealing with here recently. So hopefully James Harden's A-okay and he gets back in there. Kevin Durant could certainly use the help after losing Kyrie Irving to a pretty nasty sprained ankle. He's expected to miss the rest of this series. So that's the biggest news. Keep an eye on James Harden and we'll kind of go from there. So with that in mind, I've got a couple of points props that I want to talk about. The first one is Drew Holiday, who's at 17.5 points. Now, Drew Holiday has not done a great job so far in this series in terms of scoring. Maybe things turn around eventually, but it seems like every day is that day where we say maybe things will turn around tonight for Drew Holiday in the scoring department, and it has yet to happen. So I'm going to continue to bet on the under on Drew Holiday in the 17.5 points. Let's go ahead and start things off here by looking at Number Fire. We will pull up Drew Holiday's points projections today. And you can see that they've got him all the way up at 18.8 points. So that is obviously quite a bit higher than 17.5, indicating that maybe we should be leaning toward the over, but I'm just not so sure I'm buying into these projections today that he will go for 18 or 19 points. I just haven't seen it so far out of him in this series. So let's go ahead and move over to NBA.com. You can see that for the season, he has scored at 17.7 points per game. That is right in the ballpark of tonight's projection of 17.5. So you know, not really helping us out if we're looking to take the under there. It's still slightly over 17.5. We could scroll down a little bit and look at his last 5 games over on NBA.com. You can see that he's getting plenty of minutes here. He's also getting a pretty healthy share of the field goal attempts, not shooting the ball particularly well in most of these games so far against Brooklyn. You see a 36% field goal percentage, 28%, 37%. He did have one game where he ended up with a 60% field goal percentage, but only attempted 10 shots in that game. Still wound up with just 13 points. So in terms of his scoring output, his last 5 games, he has not eclipsed 17.5 points. Going all the way back to the series against Miami, 11 points, 17, 13, 9, and 14. So he has not covered 17.5 points, not even once in his last 5 games. This is why I don't know if I believe the projections tonight. So you could see Jrue Holiday has definitely been struggling. So if we click on the stats category here, we can kind of get a holistic view at how well Jrue Holiday has been scoring throughout this playoff run so far. So you can see that he's appeared in 8 playoff games, playing over 37.3 minutes per game. Scoring average is pretty low at 14.3 points per game. He's taken on more of a facilitator role throughout the playoffs for this Milwaukee Bucks team so far. So 14.3 points obviously is over 3 points less than where he was for his season scoring average, which was 17.7 points. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move over to RotoWire. We'll check out how the various sports books are lining up here for Jrue Holiday in this points prop. You can see they've got him at actually 18.5 points across 3 different sports books, which is a different line than what we've got him at on PrizePicks. PrizePicks has bumped him down to 17.5 points, but at 18.5 points, you can see that he was a -118 under, a -112 under, and then last but not least, he is even at a -115 under and over. So guys, I don't know if I'm buying it yet. I don't know if Jrue Holiday is suddenly going to turn into a dynamo in terms of scoring. I think I'm going to continue to ride the, I guess you would call it a hot streak, cold streak. He hasn't been able to score very well, so I'm going to take the under on the 17.5 point prop, which kind of flies in the face of the projections and these Vegas totals, or Vegas odds, I should say, across these different sports books. So that's the way I'm playing it, and probably will approach Jrue Holiday in this points prop tonight. Another guy I want to talk about in terms of points props is Blake Griffin. He's at 10.5 points. Again, this is another situation where you're going to see projections and probably Vegas lines that suggest that maybe Blake Griffin goes over 10.5 points tonight. I don't think he does, especially if James Harden ends up suiting up and playing a full run of minutes for the Brooklyn Nets tonight. Blake Griffin, another guy who just has not shot the ball very well. He doesn't get a lot of shot attempts to begin with. And the ones that he does get, he just hasn't been converting. He hasn't been producing in terms of points. So let's go back to Number Fire. We'll look up Blake Griffin's name. And they've got him projected at 10.8 points. So that's just a little bit over this 10.5 point prop, meaning that he's, leaning closer to 11 than he is 10. But, at 10.8 versus 10.5, I mean, you're like, at a coin flip in that situation. So I'm not too scared that this prop is slightly more than where he's at on PrizePicks. So let's go ahead and move over to NBA.com and take a look at Blake Griffin's points per game for the season. You can see that he scored 11 points per game in his regular season games this season. So, a little bit higher than the 10.5, but again, that's not some outrageous number that puts Blake Griffin like way over 10.5 points. So let's go look at his last 5 games. You could see that in this series so far, he's only got one game where he had this crazy scoring outburst of 18 points, ended up attempting 13 field goal attempts in that one. That's an outlier. That's not going to continue to happen. And you could see that based on his last 5 games, that's only really happened once. He's only broke out for 10 or more points in that one game. So that's 4 unders on today's 10.5 point prop versus just the 1 over. So that's good for a cover rate that is pretty pathetic. So I'm not confident that Blake Griffin is going to break out and have a big scoring game tonight, especially if James Harden plays. So let's go ahead and click the stats category here. We'll get a holistic view of Blake Griffin in his playoff run so far. He only plays 24 minutes per game, not getting a ton of minutes. And you can see his scoring average is down there at 6.9. That's less than 7 points per game. Again, another situation where a guy who, is not a major contributor in terms of offense on this team. So I don't expect him to score a ton of points. Like, could he? I guess he could, but I'm going to ride with the numbers here and the averages that suggest that he's just not that involved in terms of getting buckets for the Brooklyn Nets. So there you have it for Blake Griffin. Let's go ahead and move over to RotoWire. We'll take a look at how his points prop stacks up across the industry today. And we've got him at a couple of different lines here. We got him at 9.5, 10.5, and 10.5 across 3 different sports books. So that 9.5 people are taking the over there, expecting him to score 10 or more points. But at 10.5, You've got one site here that suggests that maybe we should be looking at the under at 10.5 points. That's kind of where I'm falling on this 10.5 point prop. And then finally, the last book here has them as a -118 to go over and a -111 to go under. So not looking like a super strong take here on Blake Griffin as far as the over the under, but I'm going to base things off of his historical performances, and that's throughout the playoff series so far. I just don't think that he gets 11 or more points. So I'm going to probably take the under on Blake Griffin, which kind of flies again in the face of the projections and the Vegas lines out there on some of these sports books. So let's ride the under on Blake Griffin's points tonight. Now, the next couple of props that I want to talk about are both assist props, and both happen to be superstar assist props. And the first one I'm talking is Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is at 4.5 assists today. So let's head back over to Number Fire. We'll click the assist column. Let's go ahead and type in Giannis's name. You can see they've got him projected at 5.5 assists tonight. So the way that things are shaping up, it's almost looking like the story that's trying to be told here, the narrative that's trying to be told by some of these props and projections that I'm seeing is that Giannis is going to have less of a scoring role. He's going to have more of an assist role. And guys like maybe Drew Holiday, maybe a Chris Middleton, and some of these other role players will step up and score more, and Giannis will score less. Now, that's just kind of what I'm piecing together here based on the way that these projections and some of these Vegas odds are going. But with Giannis at 5.5 assists, that does put him over today's projection of 4.5. But again, this is going to be another one of those situations where if you look at the averages, you look at his game logs, you're going to see that 5.5 assists or more have just not been there for Giannis Antetokounmpo so far. Now, if you look at the regular season, he did dish the ball out pretty well, almost 6 assists per game throughout the regular season. But if we go and look at his last 5 games, let's look at the assist category here. Going back to 5 games ago against the Miami Heat, that closeout game against the Heat, he dropped 15 assists. So yes, he can definitely go off and have a nuclear assist type of night where he's dropping dimes left and right. But look at what has happened here since the series has begun with this Brooklyn Nets team. 4 assists, 2 assists, and 3 assists. I mean, he's coming kind of close here, or he did in the first 2 games against Brooklyn in terms of coming close to 5 assists, but he's just not getting it done. So in his last 4 games, I mean, 4 games in a row where he has failed to cover 4.5 assists. So the under has been the way to go at 4.5 assists so far for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So let's click the stats category here, and we'll try and get a holistic playoff view of Giannis. Now, he's appeared in 8 playoff games so far this season, 36.6 minutes per game. We'll go over to the assist category. He's at 5.5 assists, which does put him over 4.5 assists. But you have to take into account that every matchup, every series is a little bit different. So he might have been dishing the ball out a little bit more versus Miami. In this series so far against Brooklyn, he just has not. So this number could be a little bit inflated due to that previous series against the Miami Heat. So let's head over to RotoWire. We'll look up Giannis's name here, and we'll click the assist category. And we'll go find him here across the various sports books. We've got him at 5.5 assists. Now, he is no longer at 5.5 assists on PrizePicks. He's at 4.5. So we kind of have a custom line, if you will, over on PrizePicks where they have moved it from 5.5 down to 4.5. But at 5.5, you can see strong odds on the under, -167, -148, and -154. And you can't blame them based on what I've shown you. I really wish the line was at 5.5 assists, but even at 4.5, I'm still feeling okay about taking the under here on Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I'm going to go against the grain, go against his projected assist number of 5.5 and say that he just doesn't get there. They're going to need him to score, as has been the case in 3 out of the 4 games in this series so far where he's put up 32, 33 points. So I just don't think that they can afford to have him be passive here and not aggressive in terms of scoring points. So I'm going to take the under on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, the other guy I want to take the under on is Kevin Durant. Now, prior to the news that James Harden is going to try and suit up and play, Kevin Durant was at 6.5 assists. He has since been bumped down to 5.5 assists. Now, even at 5.5 assists, I think I'm liking the under on Kevin Durant. This is, again, one of those situations where he has not been getting 6 or more assists per game so far in this series. And I'll show you even his playoff numbers have been pretty paltry in terms of the assist category. So let's head back over to Number Fire. We'll start things off by getting a projection for Kevin Durant today. You can see that they've got him all the way up, hiked up at 6.9 assists, almost 7 assists tonight. I don't know if I'm buying it, especially if James Harden suits up. And even if James Harden didn't suit up, do they really foresee Kevin Durant taking on more of an assist role? I mean, I don't know. They're going to need him to get buckets. It's just hard for me to believe that he's going to get 7 assists tonight. Just not a big believer. So we'll see. We'll see how things play out. But let's move over to NBA.com and you get an idea of how many assists per game that Kevin Durant has dished out throughout the course of the regular season. 5.6 assists per game. Now, this number can be a little bit skewed because, you know, throughout different parts of the season, we didn't have Kyrie Irving. We didn't have James Harden in the lineup. So there's been a lot of moving parts and pieces. So this number may not be entirely accurate. Let's go look at his last 5 games here, and more importantly, the last 4 games in which he's played the Milwaukee Bucks in this series. So we go down to his assists for the Brooklyn Nets versus the Boston Celtics. That closeout game, he drops 3 dimes. 3, that's also an under, so that's 2 unders to start things off. Now, he does go over here in the second game against the Milwaukee Bucks, dropping 6 assists, and he comes pretty darn close here with 5 and 5 in his previous 2 games. So all in all, when you look at his last 5 games, he's covered this 5.5 assist prop just 1 time out of 5. So not a very good cover percentage here for Kevin Durant. So let's move things over to RotoWire. We'll take a look at KD's assist prop there. Now you got him at 6.5 on one book. Now at 6.5, people are smashing the under at -152. But you know, we can't ever have nice things over on PrizePicks. They got to make it a challenge, make it difficult on us. So they have moved the line from 6.5 down to 5.5. And there is one other book, FanDuel, who has it at 5.5. And at 5.5, people are taking the over at -122. So it's going to be one of those ones where it's kind of tough. It's really going to hinge, I think, a lot on James Harden's availability. If he plays, if he doesn't play. But so far, I mean, based on what I've seen here, I think I'm going to take the under on Kevin Durant at 5.5 assists. And to wrap the video up, we're going to talk about one rebound prop that's looking pretty juicy to me. Chris Middleton at 6.5 boards. He is projected to go over 6.5 today, and I tend to agree for once, unlike my other 4 picks, which were kind of going against the grain more often than not. At 6.5 boards, I think that's a little bit too low, and I think this is one that Chris Middleton could definitely cover. So let's go take a look at the rebound category here, and we'll look for Chris Middleton's name. You can see they've got him projected at 6.7 rebounds, which is a shade over 6.5 boards, favoring the 7 or more rebound situation here. So we should be looking to lean toward the over on this 6.5 rebound prop. Now, if you look at his regular season rebounds per game, 6 rebounds per game, that kind of puts him in the neighborhood here of this 6.5 rebound prop. Obviously slightly under, but I think things do get better for Chris Middleton. Since the playoffs have started, I expect this number to go up. But let's go take a look at his last 5 games first, and then we'll get into his playoff averages so far. You can see that in his last 5 games in terms of rebounding, 11 boards to close out the series against the Miami Heat. Then you got 13 rebounds to open up the series against the Brooklyn Nets, 5 boards, 15 boards, and 4 boards. Now, why I like this prop especially is I like catching guys when they come off of a kind of a down game. And in this case, 4 rebounds in his last game against the Brooklyn Nets is considered a down game. It's below the mean, below where he has been at for his season averages. So this is a good bounce back spot, in my opinion, to target some rebounds here for Chris Middleton. So let's click the stats category here, and we'll scroll down and look at how well he's done throughout the playoffs. He's appeared in 8 playoff games so far. He plays almost 37 minutes per game. If we go over to the rebound category, you can see that it is higher than where he was for the regular season. 8 rebounds per game versus the 6 rebounds per game that he was averaging throughout the regular season. So that's an uptick of nearly 2 more rebounds per game. He's been crashing the boards. This is why I like the over on Chris Middleton and this 6.5 rebound prop. So let's close that out. We'll go over to rotowire.com and we will finish things up here. Click the rebound category and go down to Chris Middleton. You got him at 6.5 boards across 3 different sports books. -134 to go over. Loving that. -130, not bad. And finally, -128. We will take it. 3 different books, all in agreement, all in alignment on Chris Middleton going over 6.5 boards. I'm in favor of it. I think this is probably one of my more favorite props out of the 5 that we've talked about in today's video. So I'm going to definitely be taking some overs on Chris Middleton and these 6.5 rebounds. But you guys, you tell me, which prop are you liking the most? Which one do you hate? Maybe there's a prop I didn't talk about that you're in love with. Leave it down in the comments section below. You could help me out or help somebody else out who watches these videos. Appreciate the feedback. Appreciate those likes. Appreciate you subscribing with that bell turned on so that you don't miss any of the videos that I drop. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Glad to be back. Good luck tonight if you're playing over on PrizePicks. If you're not, promo code Curry, 100% instant deposit match for your first deposit. Go sign up now. We'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace out.